family systems therapy practitioner, no other than Miss Lizbeth De Sa.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Lizbeth, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. So, I'm a certified level 3 internal family systems therapy practitioner. I grew up in England. I've lived in different countries all over the world. And now I live in South Carolina in the United States. And I see clients, I help them transform and heal often intractable trauma, seemingly intractable trauma from their childhood, so that they can live happy lives full of joy, fulfillment, creativity.
Miss Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Hoping for more and more and more. Empowering therapy to come. So let's talk about improving self esteem. How do you define
Yes.
healthy self esteem versus arrogance or insecurity?
So I define it as a healthy sense of self. I work from the internal family systems model, which is that they're made up of different parts or sub personalities. And some of these parts, they carry burdens of pain or trauma. We use other parts of ourselves to function in different aspects.
Interesting indeed, Miss Lisbeth. And she was disconnected, people. So while we are waiting for her, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in its fourth season and movie 101 review and music 101 as well as in fourth season 2 science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Miss Lisbeth is here, so let's continue our discussion. Miss Lisbeth, as I'm saying, how do you define healthy self-esteem?
Right. So we're made up of different parts or subpersonalities, and some of these parts carry burdens of pain, trauma. We use other parts of ourselves to function in a multitude of situations in our lives. And connecting all of these different parts of us is the self, the essential essence of who you are at core. So I understand a healthy self esteem to be when our parts have a healthy and deep connection to our self energy. And that means there's an integration, there's a harmonious flow, parts can work together. And insecurity or arrogance might be when parts who are in pain, they take over and they might act in ways that aren't beneficial to other parts of ourselves, other people. But a healthy self esteem is when there's more balance and flow, and we tend to act in ways that benefit ourselves and others.
Benefits from other. What are the most common signs of low self-esteem in adults, Miss Lisbeth?
So I would say fear, anxiety, insecurity, not understanding the impact that one has in the world, self doubt, not being able to live out your joyfulness, who you are, your skills, all of that, questioning yourself and your place in the world, not really understanding that you have a lot to contribute because there is so much self doubt inside.
And why does some people struggle with self-worth even after external success?
Well, I think that's because if we use this model, this internal family systems model, parts of us may be in pain and may have experienced trauma, often from childhood. And if we look at those experiences, often they may have been rejected for who they were. They weren't given that unconditional love and support, positive regard for who they were. So I think that leads to them constantly seeking that out in later life, regardless of the external success they may have. If they don't have that strong, steady attachment and connection within themselves, then it's always going to be futile trying to find it outside ourselves.
Interesting indeed, Miss Lisbeth. Interesting. So let's talk about the root causes of our topic, improving self esteem. What
Yeah.
childhood experiences most shape our self esteem as adults?
Well, I think we have various developmental windows, and it's really important throughout our childhood in different ways to be given support to deal with challenges and also negative experiences, which are a fact of life. But if we get that support, usually from a primary caregiver, like our parents, then we're able to feel firmly rooted and secure within those attachments. We're able to face the challenges of life with resilience because we have that support. We know we have a steady source of love to return to, and that we are held in high regard.
And how do social media, comparison culture, erode self worth?
Well, I think there's you can see a lot of edited, filtered photos. I think there's a huge flood of information out there that is way faster than the human brain can process. So we don't always have time to, assess things and say, is this actually realistic? We're just flooded with this, and we start comparing ourselves. I often take pauses fast from social media, and I just find myself feeling so much more healthy and just more solid within myself when I do that, because I think that I personally move at a slower pace than what social media allows for. So I think that there's just a lot of information, and it can be just too much.
Definitely. And what's the link between perfectionism and low self esteem, Miss Lisbeth?
So I understand perfectionism again in terms of the parts model. So we have parts who carry these burdens of pain or trauma, and often we lock them away because we weren't given the support to deal with them, heal them when we were young. And we also have parts called protectors, and their job is to make sure that that pain does not get activated. So often it can feel like walking on eggshells. We go through life and it feels that we have to keep that pain under the surface. And there are some parts whose, as I said, their job is to protect the exiles from getting reactivated. And one way is through managing life. And if you, for example, are a perfectionist, then you might try to make sure that you only put things out in the world when they're absolutely perfect, because this would protect you from, say, criticism. And criticism might actually threaten that exile. Now, unfortunately, even if we strive to be perfect, it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be good enough. And eventually, those exiles will get stimulated. That pain will get activated. And then it might lead to negative behaviors, feelings, anxiety, depression, angry outbursts. There's all sorts of things that might happen when exile's pain gets re-stimulated. So really, what we want to do is go back to the exiles and heal that pain. And then the protectors who try to keep up this perfect standard in the world, they don't have to behave in that way because we've healed the exile. So then they're more able to be human, and then they can take on other roles in our lives.
Interesting indeed, Miss Lisbeth. Interesting indeed. And as an internal family system therapy practitioner, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, my short term goals are to heal my own issues and to help clients heal theirs. I try to have more fun in my life. I play with my German Shepherd dogs. I try to just have more joy, creativity in my life. I'm also a laughter yoga leader. So I'm really interested in how we can bring more laughter into our lives and how that taps into our self energy, brings in more creativity, unconditional happiness. And then I really want to bring that to my clients. There is so much pain and trauma in this world, so much that people have locked away from their childhoods. And this is such an effective way of tapping into that in a way that's very soothing, healing, not re traumatizing, and brings people so much hope that they can heal this. And then my long term goals are to teach this. I used to be a teacher. So it's really important to me that this isn't just a once a week therapeutic practice. It's something that people can learn to do for themselves as a daily practice, a spiritual practice. So I write about applying the internal family systems model to everyday life. I want to be teaching video courses. For example, feedback. That's a course I'm working on right now. How to give and receive feedback, when to be careful about giving it. It's a really, really, it's a topic we have to be really careful about because it can be really difficult to receive feedback. Some of our exiles may feel really threatened by negative feedback. It can be difficult for others to hear our feedback, but it's a fact of life when we're interacting with people. So, how can we deal with the parts of us who may feel insecure about receiving feedback? How can we help them be in a more solid place so they can use that information and use it in a way that's helpful to their situation? How can we give it to others so that it's not threatening, so that it can be really helpful and build up the relationship?
Well, good luck to your goals, Miss
Thank you.
Lisbeth, and looking forward for more success. And what will
Thanks.
be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a therapy practitioner like you?
Well, I would say if they want to be a therapy practitioner, then just first of all, the most important advice is to know yourself. I think that there are many therapists who they may learn the skills, but if you don't know yourself, then you haven't experienced real healing. I think it's really important to heal so much of ourselves before we bring ourselves to other people and offer them our skills and gifts and services. Also, in the therapy session, it's also possible to get activated ourselves. And I think that it has to be a safe environment for the client. They have to be able to give me feedback, and I have to have a strong sense of self so that I can take it and do what's best for my client. So I think, and we hear things that may be activating. For example, if I haven't healed my own experiences of childhood racism, then someone sharing their experiences might be really activating for me. And it isn't ideal for me to deal with my parts during a session. What I want to do is heal as much of myself as I can. So I bring my whole self to the client and I can be entirely present for them and their healing. So I would say the most important thing is to heal and know yourself.
Well, thank you for that advice, Miss Lisbeth. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Sure. So this is a book called The Children on the Hill by Michael Deacon. It's a very old book. It was written in the 70s. And I discovered it when I was teaching at a democratic school in Australia. And the whole purpose of that school was for students to choose what they wanted to learn. It wasn't about them being told what to do. So they could follow their passions, they could really just enjoy learning, really foster that love of learning. So I read this book and I realized that it was really powerful because it wasn't just about the education system. It was actually about how two parents raised their children. And just by fostering this loving, accepting environment, allowing the children to really follow what they wanted to do and give them freedom, acceptance, and just so much positive regard, they fostered such a healthy sense of self-esteem in their children. And the results were remarkable. So there was one child who became a maths genius at a young age, another child who was playing the piano beautifully by the age of 5. And I realized that I wanted to use these techniques when I had children, but it wasn't necessarily about harnessing a genius ability in my children, though that would be nice too if they discovered some passions and things they were really interested in. It was really about how to help them love learning, to realize that this is what we do in life. We learn, follow your passions, have learning occur in a really safe and supportive way. And then the brain is so much more open to learning. Then later I started applying this to the IFS system, because if we can love our parts and give ourselves that positive regard, we will have a healthier sense of self within us. And that is so valuable.
Thank you for that recommendation, Miss Lisbeth, and I hope our viewers or listeners will read it. And what societal myth about worthiness need to be dismantled?
Well, I think my favorite one is that there's something wrong with you. And even in the world of healing, people can really focus on healing because they're making the assumption that there's something wrong with them or they're broken. So I really want to challenge that. And I think we ask ourselves that often, especially when life is really hard. We might say, what's wrong with me? And what I want to do is to challenge people to ask a different question, which is, what happened to me? I think when we look at that question, we can say, okay, something happened to me, often in childhood, that led me to behave in this way. And it helps foster a sense of curiosity for what might have happened, how that affected our inner children, and compassion, because if something happened, it wasn't our fault. And then we can use the healing power of self-energy to go back and heal those things and then do something different in our lives.
Very well said, Miss Lisbeth. Very well said. Beautifully articulated.
Thank you.
How does strong self esteem change how we show up at work or in relationship?
So I think if we have a strong sense of self-esteem, we're not going to look for that outside ourselves. So for example, in our work, we are free to be creative. And I think we need a lot more creativity in the workplace. We're not going to be just living or working from those, say, perfectionist parts who are trying to get the approval of others to avoid perhaps criticism, because those exiles are still in that position of pain. And in relationships, it's super important because often people go into relationships wanting to get that approval, that love from the other person. And ultimately, the other person is going to be wounded too. Ideally, as we heal ourselves, we're becoming less wounded and we're bringing more wholeness into relationships. But unfortunately, there's always going to be some level of woundedness, and that's a fact of life. And what we can actually do is use the relationship to highlight those issues and heal them together. But in the meantime, what people often do is they look for healing, they look for validation, they look for love and acceptance from the other person. And because the other person is looking for those things too, they're not necessarily going to be able to give them. At the beginning of the relationship during the honeymoon period, it's a lot easier to give that to the other person. But then conflicts arise, life happens, and then people start reacting to some of their own issues. Now, if we have a healthy sense of self-esteem, strong sense of self-worth, a great connection between ourself and our parts, then we can have that healthy connection and love from the other person. But it's the icing on the cake. It's really important to get that within ourselves, so then we're coming to the other person from this whole centered, grounded place.
Yes, indeed, Miss Lisbeth. Empowering answer. And how can we teach children healthy self esteem without creating entitlement?
So I think that we do that by supporting them. And I don't necessarily think children become entitled by through that support. I think that can be a misnomer. People can be afraid, especially in Western culture, people can be afraid of giving their children too much and then them becoming spoiled. I think that they will learn healthy boundaries because we all have boundaries. This isn't about giving them everything that they want. But I do think that supporting them, making sure that they hear positive affirmations about who they are, their place in the world, when they want to explore the world, giving them the support to explore the world in a safe way that's stimulating, that stimulates their curiosity. And then I really think that we can correct children in a way that is loving, that shows them the consequences of their actions, that doesn't have to be punitive, so that they develop a healthy relationship with parents, with teachers, that isn't based on fear, that's based on a solidity, the confidence that they are loved and respected.
Love and respected, indeed. And what small win that signals improve self worth?
What do you mean? Could you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, how do we deal with small things that we are doing in our lives that make our self worth better?
Okay, so I think what we can do is we can just celebrate the small wins. So, for example, when my son experiments with pottery, and he really hasn't done this, he's a musician and he's 13, he's a musician and he's quite brilliant at music. And yeah, I think it's important to make sure that he tries different things. So it can be just encouraging a diversity of activities, telling children the impact that their art has on us. It can be just appreciating them, telling them that we really enjoy their company, that they are fun to be with, that we like them. I think all of that can be really uplifting to children.
How do you handle setbacks in the self esteem journey without self blame?
Okay. So I think self blame often comes up, and I think that's just a part of us. So we have other parts too. So there are setbacks, there are negative experiences that happen. And what we want to do is to be able to look at those as different parts of ourselves. Now, it's really hard for compassion to flow from self to any parts that may be suffering a blow to self esteem when there's self criticism or self blame. So the first thing to do is to be with that part, the inner critic, who may be criticizing us and blaming us, and just extend some curiosity to them. Ask them what they want for us. And usually they're trying to help us by criticizing us. And if they learnt that at a young age, it may be that they learnt that, they stepped into that role because if they criticized us, if there was criticism within the system, it was a lot better than having someone outside us criticize us. So they learned to criticize us ourselves to preempt any external blaming. So what we can do is we can let them know that strategy may not be super effective. And they often see that. They may be really tired of that role. So we listen to them with curiosity and compassion. And when they're ready, they can step out of the way and let us be with other parts who really may need some help with whatever has caused the blow to self-esteem. Really hear them and then help them to let go of that pain so that they can move on. I think that empathy is a really powerful tool. I think bad things happen in life, and we're not talking about protecting, for example, children, acting as if that we can put them in an insulated world where those things won't happen. They do happen. But if we are with our children in those difficult times with empathy, they will bounce back. So similarly, when we can be with our parts with empathy, they can feel heard, and then some healing happens where they are able to get over it and come back to that strong, centered place of self-esteem.
Very well said, Miss Lisbeth. Again,
Thank you.
beautifully articulated. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. Or I did already while Miss Lisbeth is not around. So please do grab a copy, not or listen to one of my audiobooks, people, because they are one of bestsellers on Audible. Book 101 Review Volume 3 Suggestions, and my Earth Fever Unraveling Climate and Our Race to Restore Balance, my climate change book, and of course my Book 101 Review Volume 2 Selected, and Book 101 Review Volume 1 Highly Recommended, and one of my self-help books, Thread of Existence, Waving the Tapestry of Life. Life is too short, a journey of discovery, fulfillment, and joy. And stand tall, stand together, breaking the chains of bullying. Please listen to them wherever you listen your audiobooks. But mostly you can listen on Audible, Apple, or wherever you listen your audiobooks. So please do listen to them, people. One of a kind. Now, Miss Lisbeth, what's one step listeners or viewers can take today to honor their inherent worth?
So I would say just look at the body that you are living in. Our bodies are really amazing. They house us for often decades. They're just wonderful places that help us live, but also they are the ones who they we feel somatic sensations of life experiences. So I would say turn your attention inwards, do a scan of your body, listen to how emotions are showing up. For example, tightness in your chest, a pit in your stomach, or just elation and how you may be feeling really happy. Notice how that's showing up in your body and just be with those sensations and send them some curiosity, compassion, appreciation for trying to give you an important message.
Miss Lizbeth De Sa, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the
Thank you
world.
so much, Daniel.
So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or anything or any projects that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so visit me at multiplemind.com. You can reach out for a free discovery call. You can look at my blog. I'd love to get to know you and hear your thoughts.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Lisbeth Desai, because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Lisbeth, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise, more to come, people. See you soon.